Welcome to Unbiased and On the Fence. I'm Shane. Thank you guys so much for joining. We're talking shift today with Michelle Wolfe. What's up, Michelle?
Love it.
Today we are requiring some audience participation because we're both sort of in observer mode. Is that about how you feel? That's how I feel. So we were talking about the shift at, definitely felt some shifting going on, 12-12 during the meditation. And I didn't know if it was because I got away from the EMFs and just sort of got away from everything and was absorbing being part of nature. But I know during that meditation, I was able to detach from the self and sort of become one and what's the word for it? Trance out, I guess, like more than what's usual, sort of. I guess they kind of call it, do they call it, is that samadhi, the whole idea of reaching that point where you're just sort of the observer of all things, and then the distinction between tree and sky and the sound of your breathing that you're listening to and the sound of the birds, everything sort of, the boundaries between everything begin to break down a little bit, and you become one with everything. And that's been a lot easier to do since this.
Yeah. And it's when you mention that too, the sound and the trees and just the experience of everything, and in that observer mode, like I found it was like those things themselves were sort of pushing me deeper and deeper into that observer mode, right?
Yeah. We've been able to carry
I noticed
that away
that.
too.
Yeah, I really noticed that. It was very easy. There was really a few days, like 3-4 days, where it was so easy to slip in very deeply into that like translate state. It would almost just really just suck you in. And I really felt that, especially on the 12-12. I was really surprised by it, how much so I felt the energy coming in, just like a post, like a pillar through the top of my head, and the
right
amount
down
of
through the crown.
Yeah, the amount of pressure then in the forehead, and how much, and it was like a ripple too. So as much as I felt this like pull, there was a rippling of energy that was coming through and washing through the body, and it created very unusual feelings that I couldn't even sometimes distinguish whether it was a good or an uncomfortable feeling, or there was some cramping like that was going on in the stomach, but nothing was happening. Like it was weird. It was like, do I have to go to the bathroom or not have to go to the bathroom? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I got the whole stomach growling over and over again thing, and I'm like, what did I eat? Am I going to get sick? But nothing ever happened from it.
Yeah, but it was just this going on.
It's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be bad, but nothing ever happened.
Yeah, and really feeling things. It was like when this ripple would come through, it would like ripple through that, and felt those responses, things like moving and shifting around in the torso. Also the increased pressure as as I went more and more trance, like really, was like recognize what was happening, so just went with it. The amount of sensation and pressure in the chest increased, and with clearer thoughts that were starting to come in. I felt this popping and expansion, like pushing down, like roots. I was getting visuals. pushing down in through the solar plexus.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was it's hard, really hard for me to put words to, but that itself was kind of what one of the things that was pushing me deeper. You know, you talked about like hearing birds and hearing like, or sensing the trees or these other things. It was like pushing in a deeper state, but then the thoughts themselves were pushing me into a deeper and deeper state of observation. And what I was observing was still the mind's need to control the meditation process. And okay, this is what we do, this is how we make the best of it. What do you need to do in trying to control the situation? You know, you want to raise your vibration. And what came to me in that moment was seeing objectively this mind trying to strive to make the most of it, to get what it wants out of the situation, as opposed to just observing that, and in separating yourself from that process too. I was able to recognize that this, you know, I always say we want to raise our vibration, right? We want to raise our frequency. So you know, typically going into the meditative state, I want to instill thoughts of gratitude, like all these things, trying to pull to me from outside myself, trying to bring myself up to somewhere, assuming that I'm not there. See if I can do this any justice, guys.
It's hard to put into words what's happening sometimes. I know Todd's just saying, as the stomach groans as the consciousness moans. And oh, Michelle, I'm a Michelle Marie. I think there is significance in names. Yes, very much so.
So what came to me was this concept, like, as the mind tries to take control of the situation, okay, let this put into effect the mind's plan of what it wants to do with the experience that's happening. What I was seeing was that it was still pushing me outside of myself. So in order to say, okay, I want to raise my vibration, I want to be, it's assuming that I'm trying to be somewhere that I'm not, that I'm not that, and need to get to that place. So what really came into me was that, like, deep knowing, understanding of the fact that you're still chasing something outside of yourself, and it's assuming that you're not already that.
Right. And it gets back to what you were talking about a few months back about embodiment, or, you know, embodying that energy, I think.
Well, it's the kingdom it's the kingdom of heaven, of God being within you, right? And it's just that constant recognition of when the mind is seeking to project and control outside of itself, in order to get somewhere it perceives that it isn't.
Right.
Right? So to assume that I need to get to here, it's an understanding that you're everything, and we contain the whole story already. We've already been there. We've already done that. We already are that. It's already all within here. We already are that. So this constant, the mind constantly trying to chase outside of itself something that which you already are. It's like, as soon as you realize that you are already that, this thing you are trying to get to, you're trying to obtain, you're trying to get to that point, because it's not here. So that's why you're trying to get there.
Yeah.
Well, once you recognize, no, I don't need to get there, because it's already here.
Right. Yeah.
So I hope I'm doing this justice. When these noise come in, they're not, as deep as that is, it's not coming in words, because I'm distanced. I've been distancing from that thought and just observing. So it's like an opening up within oneself. And
I think you said it perfectly, though.
I hope so.
This is something that's come up several times in the last few days. And then I read this post I want to share with you guys. This comes from Alan Watts, the philosopher. It says, wanting positive experience is a negative experience. Accepting negative experience is a positive experience. It's what the philosopher Alan Watts used to refer to as the backwards law. The idea that the more you pursue feeling better all the time, the less satisfied you become. And pursuing something only reinforces the fact that you lack it in the first place. The more you desperately want to be rich, the more poor and unworthy you feel, regardless of how much money you actually make. The more you desperately want to be sexy and desired, the uglier you come to see yourself, regardless of the actual physical appearance. The more you desperately want to be happy and loved, the lonelier and more afraid you become, regardless of those who surround you. The more you want to be spiritually enlightened, the more self-centered and shallow you become in trying to get there.
Yes. Yes.
So that's come up several times. So when you said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, here it is again. And I think that's important to notice these trends. I mean, you can notice trends within, like, because YouTubers have picked things up. You know, you're like, well, look, they're all talking. And sometimes it can seem like they're colluding or like watching each other's videos and like, hey, great idea, I'm going to go do that. But I don't know how many times I did a video about something and then I look and I didn't notice anybody. And they had put the video out before me.
Yeah.
But it was like these waves that go through the consciousness on certain things, and this is one of them right now. It's sort of, and this ties in with the whole Let It Be thing that I got from the Yesterday movie. I don't know if you guys remember, but he was singing the song Let It Be, and, you know, whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And it's sort of getting to this point where you realize everything is unfolding perfectly, just like it's supposed to. You know, you have everything you need within. The kingdom of God is within you. This whole thing, it's all connected, you know what I mean? But as soon as you were saying that, I was like, oh, I got to bring this up because I just sent it out to a few people last night. And I was like, this is beautiful. It's so deep. But, you know, it's like if you're resonating with wanting something so bad, then you're actually resonating and not having it already.
Yeah. You're always trying to get to somewhere.
Right.
Then you're assuming that you're not.
And that takes you out of the now.
So you'll always be not what you want,
right?
Because that's what you're in the night, you know, now. But that if we really are all things, then it's all within us. It's simply a recognition or honing into what is already within us, and finding that vibration, you know, within.
Yeah, finding our completeness, finding that you know, God is within us, the kingdom of God is within us. And it's just realizing that. And instead of looking external to external sources or looking to future time, you know, just to the future that maybe someday I'll have this, you're not resonating in the fact that you do already have it. Like, you know, people looking to Ascension can get caught up so much in some date or some future time of wanting something so badly that they're actually not helping it bring it about anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you got to embody it right now. You've got to tap into that bliss, that joy. That's why I did that meditation, because it's a reminder, even for myself, all the time that it's always here. And the more you can resonate in it in the now, the more you can bring it about on, you know, I guess the shared consensus reality for everyone. People that don't quite get it or whatever, you can bring it about for them. You can have that 100th monkey effect happen. But when you're sort of impatient, you're like, oh God, I want to get out of here. I want to go home. I want to, you know, this sort of mentality of like, I hate it here on earth and all that. That's like the opposite of where you want to be to help bring it about, you know?
Yeah. It's hard though sometimes.
It is. But at any moment,
especially
you can do that 5-minute meditation.
Especially when we can feel like we don't really belong in this process. Like when things become so blurry and, you know, we were talking just before, I was saying, you know, how real the dreams are right now and how involved and how I feel in the dreams. Like, how much more of everything I am and do and within the dream, and then I just get plunked back here for a little while, and it's really it's very strange right now, this back and forth between dream time.
Yeah, and the blending between the two. Like I was just telling you, I went to brush my teeth this morning and I looked at my toothpaste and I was thinking, my gosh, it's empty again. And I was just wondering how it was so much fuller earlier. And I was like, wait, that was a dream? I was having a dream about brushing my teeth. And then I didn't realize it until I looked at the toothpaste and it was more empty again. I was like, no, this is how I remembered it. You know what I mean? And it was just weird, you know?
Yeah, more experiences of recognizing like something like that, like, hey, hold on a second, I just dreamt this about, and sort of feeling those reenactment, or like I dreamt this previously and now here I am doing it.
Yeah.
You know, that's come up a little bit more too.
Yeah.
But
we are here as healers. Michelle says that's really cool, because I was thinking, you know, and it's really starting with healing ourselves too. You know, we all have our own healing now.
Yeah, that's.
Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your screen name.
What's that?
Nayikas, the Nayikas. That's Michelle's screen name. I don't know how to pronounce it right. So sorry, I'm butchering it. But very good though. Yeah, we have like all these issues that we can deal with ourselves, and just resonating in that does bleed over into the wider consciousness. So you don't have to actually be out there. Not that it's. I mean, if you can get out there and shine your light, great. But you know, we have plenty of work to do in ourselves as well, right?
Well, I think one of the things with this process, when this energy comes in, and it can put us in waves of being really quiet and needing time to pull back from everything and everyone, and just, observing and rearranging your own puzzle pieces. And it is a really important thing, because you need to step back from all the drama and everything else, and have that quiet, that introspection, to just be looking within. So it's just really natural to be pulling away from everybody else right now too.
Yeah.
So, which sometimes we can feel bad about, I notice, because we want to be service to others. We're like, well, isn't this supposed to be, about service to others? And it really is this balance too of, well, it's really important to heal yourself right now, so you'll be so much better at healing, understanding, and actually really truly helping others.
Well, our state of mind,
our
state of mind controls how we treat others too. So if you're like not taking care of yourself and you're sort of in a pissy mood and you go out, you're not spreading the love and the light that way. I mean, so you do have to, take care of yourself. It is a balance there for sure.
Yeah. Well, by what's really going on now too is this incorporation and understanding of our shadow selves, and in a sort of objective way, and being able to see it as part of the mosaic of who we are in this experience, and understanding that more objectively, it allows us to understand others with a lot more compassion, forgiveness, and seeing their place in the mosaic of all that we are in the telling of this story. It's all part of us. It's all part of us. And that's part of this shadow coming into flow and realizing this. So my ears are really ringing with this. They just
I've had a few really hard ones where I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone had to
it
hear
just
that,
kicked in there. And that's really the part of this, which I think can lead to that deeper opening and understanding. That's what's coming in right now. It just expands even more, but we'll be able to really find our place and I think in our role, and how we will really be able to truly help others to the best of our ability, once we've really been able to help ourselves. In this.
Yeah, one of the things that's been coming to me a lot lately is just getting caught up in all of the chaos out there, whether it's the political stuff. I mean, it really depends on the type of person you are or whatever, because people that typically would watch maybe the political stuff or the religious stuff that can trigger you, you're not going to watch it unless it's probably going to trigger you anyway because you're too involved with it, right? So people that don't care just don't care or whatever. But if you feel drawn to it, then you end up getting triggered. I keep getting that whole thing like, it's a distraction, it's a distraction, it's a distraction. Things are going to play out like they're going to play out. Keep your vibes up. And it's like directly related to our health and well-being. How we feel with our aches and pains and all of that stuff, because as soon as your vibes start dropping down because you're getting too sucked into the chaos of the 3D world and all the stuff that's going on, like you're saying, the drama that's going on, it's just going to pull you down. There's really no benefit at all into getting pulled in and sucked into that stuff. I like to observe from a distance, hear what's going on, but you know, it's not hard at all to get sucked into it and then to find yourself like feeling angry for the rest of the day or even for a while until you catch yourself. You're like, wow, I shouldn't have watched that because now I don't feel as good as I did beforehand. So, but I've been hearing it in my head, you know, that's a distraction, turn it off, you know, and I'll just turn off the radio or whatever because I'll typically turn stuff on while I'm driving, you know.
What I'm getting right now is sort of this interesting, because that you talked about pulling you down, right? Pulling you down, these things that we can observe. There's also things that can pull us up.
Yeah.
But either way, it's pulling us outside of ourselves. So there's the good stories that we want to hear, and there's the bad stories that we don't want to hear. And you know, some of these things can make us feel really good and can pull us up. And other things you can be triggered by, pull you down. But ultimately, again, I want to recognize the process that these things can still be pulling you outside of yourself, either up or down, as a distraction. That this thing is either making you feel good or making you feel bad, and that is contingent on something that is outside of you.
Yeah, because a lot of times what happened, it'll pull you out and up, but then something happened and that same thing that pulls you up pulls you down.
Because it's contingent on that external thing.
Yeah, instead of going within. Exactly. That's why nostalgia is so powerful to, you know, play some music you listen to at a good time in your life, maybe like a CD you listened to as a teenager, and it takes you back to like the feeling, but because that's within, those are memories that's within you.
That's why I think we get those flushes of nostalgia come in, just sort of re-ground us in how we want to experience our reality. This is how I really want to feel about life, about my life, right? And it sort of washes us back into that you can have that experience and that feeling, not just from the past, but be feeling that about your life now. And I think that, you know, and that feeling comes from within.
Yeah.
It can wash through you. But yeah, that it's an important thing to realize that these, you know, even I was listening to some Naughty Beaver earlier. We're on a Naughty Beaver binge in this house right now. So, and, you know, they talked about how sort of the, nefarious, you know, the cabal, the Illumina, the agenda, whatever, how they have sort of tried to control the ascension process, right? Or the outcome of the ascension, and knowing what they know and what, you know, what's going to happen. You know, they try to infiltrate, right? So they would infiltrate, you know, New Age or whatever. And so, you know, and just thinking and contemplating, you know, what tactics would they use in that infiltration to sort of subvent it to their reality of what they want to experience. So
they can't stop it, so they're trying to guide it more like.
Exactly, right? You know, so, and one of the things in I think in Cosmic Agency and Raw that he was going over from Law 1 is this, that they can still function in the 5D reality, these entities. So they're not just necessarily limited to 3D. They can't go past that, where it's a hierarchy, a pyramid system, right? Where one can benefit from all, as opposed to everybody being sort of equal, where that dynamic can still hold. is still present in the 5D. So, I do think it's interesting how, much there's been that push to focus on getting to 5D. Mm-hmm. And how it's like made to be this like fantasy world, euphoria, butterflies, unicorns, yay.
No problems, no duality and all this stuff, yeah.
But that is still ultimate. I think what we're capable of is something completely beyond that. And what's come to me is that, that may be part of the agenda to go that way. And it does tie into what I was kind of seeing on the 12/12 when I was in that meditation, and when the knowing voice from within, from the heart area, comes in and spoke in a way that I could understand, that this trying to get over here, raise your vibration, get up to there, is under the assumption that you are not already that. Mm-hmm. And it really kind of tied in to me with that, in seeing that that's still kind of part of the mind trick.
Yeah.
And why are we limiting ourselves to that box, that right. 5D box?
It all comes back to so many things are designed to limit our understanding, our potential.
Because I don't think my higher self is limited to 5D.
No.
So why would that be my ultimate goal here?
Right.
I don't think, again, what comes to me through my dreams is that I'm here to break the game entirely.
Right.
And step out of that construct entirely. And it seems to me that may be another manipulated construct that we're just trying to be encouraged to step into, to be somewhere that we're not, assuming that we're not already everything. That you can make your perfect world. Like, once the gloves are off, once the restrictions that we've been under, and as creative
that
beings,
we've really agreed to, though. It's
like
we're agreeing
with our belief
to
systems.
Jump on board with that. Yeah.
That's it, but that's the trick, right? That's the trick, and that's why it's so important to be constantly willing to let go of your beliefs.
Yeah.
Like, just let it go. Like, oh,
baggage.
It has to be this way, and that's the only way, and
It's like, well, how do you know that?
Yeah.
Well, somebody told me that. We've been told for generations this is how it is. And I think it's time to let go of all that old stuff that doesn't serve us. Realize that we're these multi-dimensional beings. We're already, an aspect of us is already on 5D, 6D, and beyond.
Yeah.
And to find it in this moment right now and to pull into that. But we're so worried about the future or tripping about stuff that's happened in the past that we're always out of that moment. And in the moment, in the now, infinite moment of now, is where we have that greatest connection to connect in with those higher aspects and just really breathe it in. I mean, it is here right now,
Yeah. And that, I'm on this journey to find out the ultimate truth of myself.
Yeah.
And not just to step into somebody else's box, another box.
Yeah.
So just something to consider.
They're all limits.
Thoughts, they are all limits. Again, it's just putting limitations on what our experience could be.
Yeah.
Well, the potential of what our experience could be. Or, and that it may be in my experience does not, I have the choice to have a different experience than you. You have the choice and the right to have the experience that you want to have, and that maybe we're all capable of that. And we don't need to agree on what that experience is. It's just our right to pursue our own truth of that, of that. So, yeah.
It's a nice time to be alive. It's so liberating too to let go of all that baggage that no longer serves. That's one of the best things about letting go of that, and then starting to trust that things are working out just like they're supposed to work out. Even the dark side of things are there. They're serving a purpose.
Yes.
And that's why I like the whole idea of viewing everything like a game, because you know, how fun would Pac-Man be without the little ghost chasing you around, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely is. When you can really see, and each moment, how the universe is speaking to you through experiences, whether they be positive or negative, with that neutrality, that is not positive or negative.
Right. Just
It's
observing.
just an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Gauge the reactions, see what the mind brings up, see what story it tells, see what is playing out, observe, and then see how the universe is speaking to you through your experience, because it's mirrors. It's just mirroring back to you.
Yeah.
It's just mirror. You're just looking in the mirror, and it's mirroring some. What is that saying? And these triggers and those things that are coming up right now is for us to see that shadow, is to see in the mirror our shadow, and bring that into the flow,
Mm-hmm.
and not be just turning away from it, denying it, um smashing the mirror, like
I like
whatever
that,
we
like
typically
combing the
do.
mirror. We're trying to comb the
Yeah,
mirror.
or comb the
Right.
mirror. It's just seeing it for what it is,
Mm-hmm.
in all, and not as just a good, but what positive came out of it, of that
Right.
shadow self. There's a full range, there's a rainbow available to you in every situation. What was good for you could have caused, like at one moment, could end up causing, like look, somebody wins the lottery and then they have all this misery. Like, there's so many shades to an experience, or somebody could experience a tragedy, yet it brings them to so many other things, beautiful experiences in life, or learning, or so many gifts, right?
Right.
So all of those shades, all of those colors are available for you to see in each experience. It's not limited to, well, this is just a good experience, or this is just a bad experience. um you can step back from all of that and just see the range of all it is, and just accept that, and learn from it, learn what story it's telling you about you.
Right. I like
And
that one story about the farmer and the neighbor. And the farmer, his horse got out, and his neighbor said, "Oh, it's such a shame." And the farmer says, "Maybe." And then later the horse returns, and it brings another horse with him. And the neighbor says, "What a blessing." And the farmer says, "Maybe."
maybe.
But then his son comes out, hops on the horse, tries to ride it. It's a little wilder than the other horse, so he falls off and breaks his leg. And the neighbor says, "What a shame." And the farmer says, "Maybe." You know. But then the next day there's this military draft, and they call all able-bodied young men to go into the war, but his son can't go because he's got a broken leg. You know. And
Yeah,
then the neighbor, of course, says, "What a blessing." And the farmer says, "Maybe." So
maybe.
we always want to apply a positive and a negative to
That's
things.
right.
And sometimes we can get stuck on looking at the tares, the weeds that's in with the wheat, and we'll just totally miss the wheat for being right there because we're like, look at all this negative and stuff. But there's always they're always mixed together. So you can always take that optimistic look, just like the picture I showed where they got the two faces. And you can either see the two faces or you can see the vase in the middle. And as soon as you see the vase, the faces become the background. As soon as you see the
Mm-hmm.
faces, the vase becomes the background. And it's like whatever you decide to focus on is what you're going to see. So
Mm-hmm.
not to get caught up in viewing the weeds and the tares because there's always some wheat mixed in there. You know, it's
Yeah,
always two
that
sides of the coin.
well, that's it. And we always say, well, some people, the cup's empty, or it's half full, but we're still measuring the experience.
Right? We're still judging it. And
We're
that,
still judging it.
the whole
Yeah.
judging thing is really gone because you hear "judge not lest ye be judged." Of course, it doesn't read that way anymore, but it's "judge not that ye be not judged" in the Bible now. The other
Yeah.
never existed. It's a Mandela effect. But if you take that, I mean, we typically apply that to other people. Like, well, I'm judging that person, but we can do it with situations. We're constantly judging situations, and in
Everything.
everything that happens, we're judging it, and that's what we're kind of talking about. That from the 12-12 is becoming the observer and just watching, and
Yeah.
not applying. You can even do that with a tree. As soon as you limit it to a name, that's a tree. You've judged it and you've limited it to this
Yeah.
word, this four-letter word, basically, of what it is.
Yeah.
But if you release those judgments, you can become the observer of all things and realize that everything is this oiled engine that's all working, and it's, you can really
that's the
see it at
difference
work.
between the mind running the show, right? Because that's a mind does things. What category does this go to? Where do I put that information? Right. That information goes here. So we've had all these years of our mind running the show and saying, okay, this is how things are done. Okay, this bit of information goes here. This is what I do with that. So that is how the mind is working. It's judging the information that we are receiving and allotting it to compartments of where things it belongs. And it just runs on autopilot and it has done that. So that's literally it. So what happens when you sort of take that helmet off in a sense, and sort of are observing the mind doing that? Okay, well, that goes here, and that's what we think about that, and that's what we think. But you're stepped outside of it and seeing it do that, and then once you start to disassemble that machine, literally that mind machine that is like an item sorter, right?
It's the left brain running amok.
Really. Yeah, and once you start saying, well, no, okay, I don't actually necessarily think that piece of information goes in that slot anymore. So let's break that structure apart. And we've been doing that with our minds, essentially, watching the machine at work and saying, well, hold on a second, that doesn't go there anymore. That doesn't go over there anymore. Well, none of that is necessary. I got to take down that whole machine, right? But we've been so used to functioning that way for our entire lives. And this is where this new knowing comes in. It's a new way of perceiving information without putting that item sorter into play, without definitively saying, well, this goes here and that goes there because that's good and that's bad, and that's the way things work. And it's really hard to express the experience of processing information that you're receiving through this different, it's not even mechanics anymore. There's no mechanics, right? Because mechanics is like you can go on autopilot. It's just it's a machine that just can run on its own,
right,
without your actually being fully present and aware of the workings of what that machine's doing. So so it's like in detaching from that and just observing the machine, and then trying to understand the way this new way of processing information works.
Absolutely. Because if you think about like our body, it's like we have about maybe 2-3% control over what our body's doing. I mean, think about like the way it heals itself. It creates a scab. You breathe. I mean, you can take over your breathing, but if you don't, it just runs on autopilot. You're blinking, your heartbeat, circulation, all your sensors, your hair growing. Aren't you so glad we aren't responsible? Like, oh, I forgot to grow my hair, and I got to push it out. It's like.
Or even look at body language, Shane.
Right.
Express ourselves with body language, and that's your mind at work, telling your truth through through actions and stuff. And so how is it we're not even we're not thinking about doing that? We're not thinking about moving those particular ways with body language that we express ourselves emotionally and without even realizing.
That gets back into the dream where we were talking about getting in the flow of things, and taking that path of least resistance, getting to the vortex, really realizing everything's unfolding just as it should. And one of the biggest helps for me was to look back at my life and realize that, I mean, so many times it's like, man, if I knew now what I didn't know then, I could go back and like, no, you can't, because as soon as you go back to that point, you haven't learned those lessons. So you have to look back not with regret, but with learning that, well, I'm glad I experienced that because I learned this, this, and this. I learned to be more compassionate, more loving, more understanding, these sort of heart virtues that help create a more loving service to others individual from ourselves. And it's all built upon what many people deem their negative or their regretful incidents that they wish that would have never happened. But in a sense, they made us who we are today. And did we learn from those lessons? Did those act as catalysts to create who we are today? And then when we see these hard times we went through as not something we wish we could have avoided, but something that, helped us grow so much better and become the person we are right now, then you can trust moving forward that the hard times that come are there to serve a purpose, and that they're only going to propel you further in your growth as a person, as a loving individual, if you allow them to push you that way. Of course, some people take incidents like that and they become more hard-hearted and or angry at life, and that's what the Law of One describes it as being catalyst. It can get you off of sort of it can either push you to the negative or the positive, and it's really up to us to decide which way we want an incident to do that. I mean, someone could be diagnosed with cancer, and on one sense they could get really bitter, or they can use it to say, well, maybe I should slow down and do this and pay more attention to the family or whatever it is. I mean, it could totally be taken negative or positive. And that's what I appreciated about the Law of One, is that it's like it puts it into perspective. There's really no right or wrong way to even do that. You can take the hard way, and getting pushed to the negative is definitely the hard way to go. But if that's the route you want to take, and a lot of times catalysts will come one after another, to start small and bigger and bigger and bigger until it's like this life-changing event that we can either learn our lesson from it and let it push us to the positive service to others, or we can allow it to eat away at us and erode away at who we are and become more negative and more sinister or whatever from it. So it's really our choice. And if you can kind of see all those things as lessons, like tests or a classroom where, not every class is fun, not every subject's fun, and we've all bombed tests before, and we've all had to study for something, didn't quite get it and whatever, but it's not always pretty is what I'm getting at, but it's all helping us become a better character or a better person in the game.
Yeah, well, so some of what you like, you talk about character, and a lot of times I really think a lot of this experience is just as an expression of a great story. And any great story has its villains, has its ups and its downs, has its character arc. And we're just experiencing the expression of a great story being told through us, and we are telling the story. It is our story, and
we're all the stars of our own life, really.
Yeah. So, and what would that be without those moments, the hero's journey?
Yeah,
right?
The hero's journey, exactly.
It's just like, and that's in a lot of ways, that's what the tarot deck is. It's a breakdown of all the archetypes, the symbolism, the structures of how we tell and experience this great story.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's all there. It's all there. All those different aspects are within the cards, those different stages. It's all part of how we're sort of experiencing it. But this is where I think in our infinite selves, there's something so much more than that. There's a stepping outside of this one story. So yeah,
they're talking about alcoholism and addiction, and that's really a great example of how you would have no idea what any of that was like had you not gone through that. If you weren't an addict in recovery, I mean, how can you possibly relate to someone that's hooked on a drug? I mean, and the thing is, it's sort of, you could be an alcoholic, right? And that's enough insight into what that was like that you can understand the meth addict on the street.
Yeah.
Even though it's a different drug of choice, it's the same sort of losing yourself in a substance, and you've been there, you've done that, you've conquered it. What benefit would someone who hadn't been through that, what benefit could they be to the person? Because they don't really know. I mean, you can be so much more of a benefit to someone who's dealing with that if you've been there and you've done that, right? So,
but that's it. And in order to be that benefit to somebody else, it's that acceptance of that shadow part of yourself. It's the acceptance and understanding and forgiveness and realizing that that's part of your story. And experiencing those things. It allows you to have a better understanding and empathy for others if we choose to accept the existence of that shadow and part of us, and and delving into that. So, and that's what will really allow us to help and others and forgive others and be there, for others to say, I can understand you without the judgment.
Exactly.
Right.
As a person that hasn't been through that says stuff like, why don't they just quit? I don't understand. Why are they spending money on that? And then yada, yada, yada. And they get into the whole judgment thing. So going through that, it helps you not to be judging because you're like, I understand, I've been there.
Yeah. And, be careful to never say never. I would never, I would never do that. I think that's one thing that I've really learned in my life, that, there's, as a younger person and sort of your, I would never do that. I would never be that. I would never. And I think I end up experiencing a lot of those things.
Oh, every single one of them for me.
Really. So be wary. Because I think that's what it calls us to say. It's like, oh, you think you would never be that? You think you were not that?
That's the whole scripture.
You are everything in everyone. Oh, you think you're not that? Well, we're going to show you that you are. Right. That actually is a part of you.
You're capable of doing that too, and we're going to show you.
Exactly, and watch you do it, right? And I think that's part of it.
Some of it swings around really fast. I always tell the story of my brother when I was a teenager. I had like McDonald's bags on the floor in the car, and he got in and goes, look at this. It's like a pigsty. And he's like going off on me, and, I was like, sorry, The next time I rode in his truck, I got in there, and he had McDonald's. Same thing, It was like all trashed out, and I'm like, bro, you just was yelling at me and stuff. What's going on? And I didn't realize how the whole judgment thing works at that time. But that was like my first view, because I'd never seen his car dirty. And then the moment he goes off on me, it makes me feel like crap about it and stuff.
Yeah.
The very next time I ride with him, his vehicle was like that. I was like, that's so weird.
That's exactly it. But that's how fast it's going to come back too. I think those things happen that much quicker. It's those lessons they don't need to wait years. They come around, I find that's the thing that, those things that I said, my, early 20s or whatever, they, may have taken some time, into my 30s or whatever, when I end up, having those experiences. But, these days, if I'm going to project that kind of attitude on anything, I know guaranteed it would come right around and bite me. I never say never. So then that's where I see that we are, I hope, really being pushed to understand that aspect of ourselves and forgive it. And that'll really help us to all move forward together with this. Releasing that
was really some of my first ideas with starting the channel, is getting in the head of people that's doing things that you feel like you would never do. Right. And to sort of put yourself in their place and see if you were born in that situation and that religion, was told all these things. Could you see yourself doing it then? And then anybody who's honest with themselves can say, yeah, I would have done the same exact thing. And then you can release yourself from that judgment. Otherwise, it's going to come back around and get you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Totally.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do think that there are aspects of entities here that do things with no consciousness, that we wouldn't do. I'm not, there's levels of depravity that are going on, I believe, by entities that are not of the same place. So, yeah.
I see what you're getting at with that. But,
I don't want to, I'm not going to get too dark or anything. I'm not going to focus on it, but. Mm-hmm.
Right. But even in those situations, you can sort of see how, if you were born in that family, you were doing something from the time you were 2.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Yeah.
And
it
was.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some videos where I'm like, wow, this kid just has no idea what they're into, because it wasn't weird, because they just always been exposed to it, you know.
No, I
So
agree in those cases. Yeah. I'm more thinking, interdimensional, higher
right.
entity.
Right.
So, yeah. That
Let's
sort of
see.
get in there.
Everybody got their shifting pants on.
Yeah, I shift my pants.
So cool. Let me
So I said
see.
to mom yesterday too, I'm like, I'm so quiet. It was her birthday, and I'm like, I'm just so quiet. It's hard to um have things to say or finish a sentence, or and I'm like thinking I'm not even funny anymore. Like, I remember when I used to be funny.
Yeah,
I'm just
and
like,
that's that's so funny you bring up the funny thing that, you know, it was sort of when I had my awakening and I started realizing how much of the really clever, funny, witty things I've said didn't even come from me. It came through me because I would typically laugh along with everybody else. It's like it just came out.
remember we talked about that.
Yeah, and it's like, oh wait, I'm not even the one doing this. Like, come on, pump
Yeah,
some more
you
funny
pat
stuff
yourself
through
on
me.
the back
Right.
for thinking how funny you are.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
happy belated birthday to your
Yeah,
mom.
happy birthday to mom.
And I think that's a little crooked. You need to come up on the right a little bit, Mom. I'm just teasing.
What's
In case she's listening while she's putting the tile in. I was just
Oh, yeah. I hope she's done for the day. She
kidding.
started at the crack of dawn.
Getting to the point where she's grouting and stuff now.
I
That's
think she's
awesome.
gonna let it dry overnight now. So
Oh, yeah.
she's being a busy bee though.
Let me see if anybody's saying anything here. Let's see. Before we close it out here. Oh, Magic Sister was talking about more lucid dreams. I've had, oh, I haven't quite gone lucid, but they've been, and nothing really to share, no symbolic dreams like I've normally had, but just like little bits and pieces of things, like remembering that, you know, the whole toothpaste thing was a dream when I was like, wait a minute, I dreamt about brushing my teeth.
Yeah,
And
I
I
just
didn't
know
catch it.
it's just so I'm just so in it. Like I'm in it to win it. Like I'm enjoying the dream so much. I'm just enjoying whatever it is I'm doing. It just feels like such a rich experience.
Mm-hmm.
And how I move and function and everything. And there's this overlying awareness all the time. Like I'm conscious of it's not full lucidity, but it's almost like aware of narration. I don't know.
Right.
It's a little interesting, but it's just been, it's so deep and so rich and just such a great experience all the time that I'm having. And I just like want to stay in it, and then coming into waking, and it's just so fuzzy. The crossover time is just really disorienting, and it's really at least really floaty. So I'm like, I kind of have to ground myself, like we did even before the show. It's like bring my, like a hot air balloon. I got to bring myself back. Okay, I'm here now. All right, I'm doing this now, apparently. Okay.
Yeah.
For a while I'm here, but it's just like a blur. It's really going by, quickly, and it's can be very confusing sometimes, that it's just so rich in the dreams and that experiences, and they're just so real and vivid, and I love it there. I love it.
Yeah.
And then I come and I do this, and I'm like, okay, I just, now what? And then back into the dream again, and it's just really blurring. It's really blurring. Not sure where am I coming or going.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, a
kind
lot
of
of
left
that
me with
going
that
on.
feeling.
But I really appreciate the idea of separating yourself and making yourself the observer of the thoughts and the narration that goes on in your head sometimes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it can, when we do relate with it, it can, we'll just repeat what we're hearing in our head, and maybe we get aggravated, or maybe we're off by ourselves and we'll repeat something we hear. But when you become the observer of some of the thoughts that come to our mind, it can actually be quite humorous sometimes.
Yes.
You can actually enjoy it as just the observer. You're like, oh, that's funny. It's
you're like, look at that dancing monkey.
Right.
Dance, monkey, dance.
Jody's talking about contradictions and writings, and that's another thing that keeps coming back to me about the wheat and the tares. Is like, you have to see what resonates. Get that spirit of discernment in there with what you read, and is it based in fear? Is it based in empowerment and love? And I think there's your answer, right? That's how the Law of One says to look at it. It says, there's going to be distortions mixed in with the truths, sort of like the whole parable of the wheat and the tares that Jesus spoke of. And I think they've been allowed to stay in there, and at some point, which I think we're in now, the truth's being revealed, the veil is dropping, we're starting to see things for what they actually are, and it's easy if you just apply the whole love and the fear test to it. Is it based in love or fear?
Yeah, it's just you can really breathe the concept in and really feel how it sits with you. And I mean, and listen, sometimes we do trigger to truth, right? Sometimes we can react to some information that does kind of need to be assimilated, and we initially react to it. But I do find what happens though is even when we do have that initial sort of reaction, and we can take a couple steps back, we can go off in another direction, and we end up coming back around to that and being a little bit more prepared at that time to then assimilate it. So but yeah, it really is a meditation process, I think, and just this breathing and experiencing and feeling how your body experiences energy and thought energy, and how that feels and how it feels to you, and how truth feels to you, where you feel it within your heart, how you arrive to it. I think that's part of what I'm trying to convey too, is lifting away the mechanics of the automatic machine thought that categorizes everything for us, and lifting away from it. And it's a different experience, and understanding this different experience of how we process and assimilate information.
I think that's awesome, because somebody was just asking me, like, what is this? What are you talking about when it's like you're dealing with shadow work? And I think you like perfectly explained it there. Like you're triggered by something, but then you have to look at why you were triggered by it. Why did it make you angry? Well, I thought, I was sure this is the way, but are you really sure that's the way it is? And that's dealing
it's affecting
with
a belief system, one of those arms, one of those one of those systems that took that information and put it in that spot. Right. You're now saying to it that you're telling me that may not be correct, and we automatically go, that structure's been there forever. It's done that. It's always done that. Right. So we can have that initial sort of reaction to it.
And it's going to keep coming around until you deal with it.
It'll keep coming around, and that's what I think is kind of a good example is just viewing my mom's process over the course of the year. She had a real reaction to information about extraterrestrials, aliens. That was like that's the wall right there. It wasn't halfway through the year, like 6 months ago that she said, when coming up to the information, that it was just like, I can't go past it. Like I just can't conceive of it. I don't want to go there. I just can't. That's where I stop. Right. I'm like, okay. So I was like, I guess naughty. I didn't mention naughty beaver back then. Right. I'm like, I've had naughty beaver in my back pocket for my mom for like a year now, knowing that she would love listening to him, but she was not ready for the information. Right. So I've had him stored away in my back pocket, just waiting for when it was the right time to go, boop. Here you go, try that out, right? And now she's hooked on it, being hooked on it the last couple of weeks. But there she was like, I can't go past that. But then seeing that exact process where she pulled back, she's like, okay, I just need to take a break from that information. Yeah. Leave it be. and I'm going to go look over here and start exploring. And eventually that, because everything's connected, this great story, it's all going to come back to the same truths, right? So, you know, she starts following those other breadcrumbs and those rabbit holes, and off she goes, and eventually starts bringing her back to here. But she was, and having more understanding of interdimensional beings and how that works. Now she's starting to expand her perception of, you know, what's possible and how these sorts of beings can exist, not in maybe typical Hollywood way that you're thinking of, but the wide range of experiences. The mind starts opening, and just to see those stages. And now here she is, listening to Naughty Beaver. So
right.
Which is,
but they'll keep coming around, and you know, you can either face them or you can sit there and try to defend them as, you know, your truth is everyone's truth and everyone needs to believe the way you believe. Or you can realize, like, I can believe this, I can allow everyone else to believe this. And then, you know, it really comes back to, is this possible? That's why I like the whole maybe story I told, because, you know, we get so dead set into thinking that we know what's best, not only for ourselves, but for others. And I've changed so much. You know, I could argue, you know, my 10 years old, 20 years ago self would argue with where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I wouldn't argue back, but well, that's where you're at. You know what I mean? I get it. But at the same time, you have to kind of get beyond the fact that, you know, you only have control over yourself. Why are you going to take the burden upon yourself to make everyone believe like you believe? I think,
you know, it's funny. I'm thinking in your maybe story, right? And as an Aquarian, as an Aquarius, one of the things we're known for is saying, I know, like, because we do have a lot of perception. We feel like, well, I know. And it's funny how much I used to say that, and I think about now, especially in the course of the last year, of how much my response to everything is maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
And I'm not, you know, I'm not agreeing, I'm not disagreeing. I'm like, and it's quite possible, and I could, you know, that more percentages on things, you know, that's what my maybes are more lean, and but nothing's definitive. Nothing is this definitive. I know it, and the I know experience itself is coming from a completely different place.
Yeah.
The I know experience isn't coming from from the mind up here, right? The mind that knew how to, this is how I can function in this world. I know.
Yeah, you get to the point where you like close yourself off to any new information because, like, no, why do I need that? I already know. I already know it all. I know what's best.
Right? Yeah.
And letting go of that is actually liberating. You wouldn't think it is, but once you get out of it, you're like, wow, it's nice to admit the truth that I don't know anything, you know, maybe.
Yeah.
And then you start to consider things and you start thinking of the possibilities, and it is such a consciousness expanding process to do that, because then you begin to remove those limitations on things. You're like, you know what, maybe it is that way, maybe it is that way.
I think it's one of the smartest things I could ever say.
Yeah.
Is to say, I don't know.
And how often do we jump into one of those cubicles or one of those worldviews or paradigms when you don't have to make a choice?
Yes.
You know, how often are we told you have to make a choice? You know, if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for anything, or what's that?
Yeah. Or even that you have to know the ultimate truth.
Right.
That you think within this paradigm.
Yeah.
If you think that there is an ultimate truth, like, how do you even know that your truth in this experience, in this story of this matrix playing out, that your truth and experience of perception and could be completely different from mine? What is the ultimate truth, right? Because I mean, some people, they're flat. It's a flat Earth. It's a round Earth, right? Like for me, I don't know. Maybe in your reality is flat. Maybe in your reality is round. Maybe in mine it's a torus.
Right.
Right? I don't think it's definitive. I mean, I can't even say, you know, no, because I've decided that this is what my reality is, and therefore that's what your reality is. I don't even think it works that way, right?
Yeah.
Right, Zoe?
Hey, Zoe. I heard her shifting around.
Yeah. So
beautiful.
Who knows?
All righty, I guess that's a great place to stop. Let's see, we got Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Are we doing a show, or we haven't even talked about it? Are we going to do a show?
Yeah. What's today? No, I mean, I know it's Tuesday because we're doing our show.
Right.
Is that
17th.
it? What, next Tuesday is what? What is it fall on?
The 24th, and then the following week.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, it's up to you. I'm not going anywhere.
I'll be available, so I guess we'll see you guys Christmas
That's gonna be a big
Eve.
Energy day. Like we might actually have a lot to talk about because we're coming up to the 21st.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot of energy. So, hi Zoe. Zoe says yes, she's up for it.
All right. Well, lots of love, light, and unity to all of you guys, and we will see you on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Michelle, for joining me.
Thanks, brother.
Peace, everybody.
Take care, guys.
If you'd like to support the work I do, go to paypal.me/UOTF. Thanks.